Before we begin, imagine this. The one person connected to your painful past suddenly appears at your front door with tears in her eyes and says, "I have nowhere left to go." What would you do? Would you close the door? Or would you give her a second chance at life? Today's story is filled with heartbreak, unexpected emotions, and a life-changing decision that no one saw coming. If you enjoy emotional romance stories with surprising twists, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another unforgettable story. Now grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's get started. The knock on my front door came just after sunset, sharp enough to pull me away from the football game playing quietly in the living room. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, I stood frozen. Emily, my ex-wife Sarah's younger sister, was standing on my porch with two large suitcases beside her. Her hair was messy, her eyes were swollen from crying, and the bright smile I remembered had completely disappeared. The engagement ring I'd seen on her finger in social media photos a few months earlier was gone. She looked down for a moment before meeting my eyes. "I know this is probably the last place I should have come," she said softly, her voice trembling, "but I have nowhere left to go." I hadn't spoken to anyone from Sarah's family since the divorce 3 years ago. It hadn't been a bitter split, but we'd all quietly moved on with our lives. Seeing Emily standing there brought back memories I'd spent years trying to forget. I invited her inside without asking questions. She wrapped both hands around the warm mug of coffee I gave her before finally explaining everything. Her fiancé had ended their engagement just 2 days earlier, confessing he'd been seeing another woman for months. The wedding had been cancelled overnight. Instead of comforting her, her parents blamed her for pushing him away and told her she needed to figure things out on her own. She had packed her belongings, driven across Ohio with no real destination, and somehow ended up at my house outside Columbus. Looking at the fear and exhaustion on her face, I knew I couldn't turn her away. "You can stay here as long as you need," I said. Neither of us realized that this unexpected reunion was about to change both of our lives forever. The first few days were filled with awkward silence. Emily stayed mostly in the guest room, leaving only to make coffee or search online for jobs and apartments. I could tell she hated feeling like a burden, so I never pressured her to talk. Instead, we settled into a quiet routine. We cooked dinner together, watched old movies in the evenings, and gradually the heavy atmosphere began to lift. Every now and then, she'd laugh at one of my terrible jokes, and hearing that laugh made the house feel alive again. As the days passed, I realized how much she'd changed. The shy young woman I remembered from family gatherings had become thoughtful, resilient, and independent. She admitted that the broken engagement had shattered her confidence, but she refused to let it define her future. I admired the strength she showed, even on the days when I caught her wiping away tears she thought I couldn't see. One Saturday afternoon, everything changed. A car pulled into my driveway, and moments later Sarah knocked on the door. The instant she saw Emily carrying groceries into the house, her expression turned from surprise to anger. She accused us of betraying her and claimed our closeness was disrespectful, even though our marriage had ended years earlier. Emily calmly stepped between us. "You chose to walk away from him," she said firmly. "You don't get to decide who he cares about now, and you don't get to tell me where I'm allowed to find support." Sarah stared at us in silence before shaking her head and leaving. As her car disappeared down the road, Emily let out a long breath. She looked at me with grateful eyes and smiled for the first time without sadness behind it. In that quiet moment, I realized life sometimes closes one chapter only to make room for a far better one.